We're going to be speaking about what I think is probably the most important thing, and that is developing a healthy sense of self. And it's really the most important thing because how you feel about yourself is really going to dictate how you deal with life. If you're not feeling good about yourself and someone says something, then it hurts you and you get upset. If anyone's critical and puts you down, it actually means that they're not a happy person. How do we know that? Because happy people don't put other people down. Happy people always want to spread happiness and uplift other people. So if someone's going to come up to you and criticize you and say bad things to you, understand that it's got nothing to do with you. As they say, hurt people hurt people. Broken people want to break other people. So don't take it personally, it's nothing to do with you. You have to have a sense of self, self-respect, self-esteem, self-love. People who don't feel good about themselves spend their whole lives just chasing recognition, which means most people are a complete slave to what other people think about them. Everyone's so self-centered, they're so worried. And you see people who are arrogant and you think, oh, they're happy, but they're not happy. What's the difference between self-respect and arrogance? An arrogant person is still relying on recognition from other people to feel good about themselves. They just happen to be getting it. Low self-esteem and arrogance are two sides of the same coin. You have two people and they're both getting their sense of self based on their car and their job and how cool they are. The low self-esteem person isn't getting that recognition because they're not so cool. And the arrogant person is getting the recognition, but arrogant people put other people down. Arrogant people can't admit their mistakes. Someone who has self-respect, they can admit their mistakes. I respect myself, I can admit my mistakes and I can work on them, I can improve them. Someone with self-respect doesn't put other people down. The less good you feel about yourself, the more you then have to put other people down to feel good about yourself. Start judging people. It says in the Torah, "Va'ahavta l'reacha kamocha." You should love your fellow as yourself, which means you have to love yourself first. Because if you don't love yourself, it's very hard to love other people. You're either jealous of them, or you put them down, or you're comparing yourself to them all the time. So the key to living a very healthy, joyful life in line with your values is to get a healthy sense of self. I feel good about myself. Not because I'm perfect, by the way. You don't need to be perfect to feel good about yourself. You just need to understand where should your sense of self come from. So we said unhealthy sense of self is based on what other people think of you, based on superficial values. Self-love. I'm worthy. I'm lovable and I'm worthy. Where does that come from? Where do you get that from? What do you need to do in order to be considered lovable and worthy? Well, how about this? What do my children need to do to deserve my love? Nothing. They don't need to do anything. In fact, it would be the most disgusting thing if my children felt that they needed to do something to get my love, that my love is conditional. I'll only love you if you tidy your room, if you be good, if you say the right thing, that would be very, very sad. I don't want my children to think they have to perform in order to feel loved and worthy. There's nothing my children need to do to be loved and to feel worthy. Everyone is deserving of love. Everyone's worthy of love. There might be some extreme cases of murderer, crazy people, but I still think that they were just broken and abused and they have to be responsible for what they did. But still, everyone is an intrinsic nature of a human being. Every child in the world, they're worthy of love. I don't see any murderers around here, by the way. What could my children do to make me stop loving them? Nothing. They could be in a big trouble, a lot of trouble. But God forbid if my children become murderers, everything, they go to prison. Do you think I'm going to visit them and sit with them and cry with them and bring them food? Of course I am. That kid who ends up in prison, God forbid, I gotta love them even more. Well, don't tell them that. You go to prison, your dad will love you. No, but you kind of love them more because you see they're broken, they need love, they need love. So there's nothing my children need to do in order to deserve my love and earn my love. And there's nothing they could ever do to lose my love. I always tell my children how much I love them. You can never damage a child by telling them too much how much you love them. I say to my kids all the time, I'm like, Shimshan, how much do I love you? And he's like, 1 billion. And I'm like, billion? 1 billion, billion, billion. And he's like, he just feels like, My older kids, but I'm like, how much do I love you? And they're like, more than words can say. And I'm like, no, more than words can say. They love it. No one's ever been in therapy when they're 45 and saying, well, my parents just showed too much love and affection. No one ever did that. Just love and love. If we could give a parenting class, my number one parenting advice is just love. Just give them love and joy and affection. I asked Binyamin, when he was about 4, I said, Binyamin, now that he knows how much I love him, Binyamin, do you know what you could do to make me stop loving you? And he thought about it and he looked at me and he was like, draw on the wall? And I was like, firstly, I'm glad that that's the worst thing he could possibly think of. It was like, what's the worst thing? Drawing on the wall. I said to him, Binyamin, even if you knock down the wall, I didn't want to give him bad ideas. Binyamin, even if you knock down the wall, you'll be in big trouble. You'll be in big trouble, but I won't stop loving you. I still love you, you'll be in trouble. And very important, just because we're talking about parenting, often when a child does something wrong and they know they did something wrong and they're crying about it, they're not crying because they did something wrong, they're crying because they feel they've lost the connection. They've lost the love. So whenever my children do something wrong and they're in trouble, I always say to them, I love you. Don't think I don't love you. You have to go to your room now. You're in trouble now, but I love you. I kiss them. I say, I love you. I love you. You're so good. You're so good. I love you so much. But you shouldn't have done that. Not the right thing to do. So my children don't need to do anything to deserve my love, and there's nothing they could do to lose my love. Because love is an intrinsic, and you are born as a worthy person. You deserve to be loved. Look around the room. Look around the room now. Who can you see here who doesn't deserve love? So watch this. Love, self-worth, is intrinsic and unconditional. There's nothing you need to do in order to feel worthy. You are worthy. You are lovable. You're no different to my children. Maybe we said in extreme cases, people who have gone psycho and doing terrible, terrible things, maybe they've lost it. But even in that case, extreme case, they have parents. They love them. Do you get this? Everyone sit up straight. Smile. Do we understand now that just like my children, that we are all intrinsically and unconditionally lovable and worthy? I think this is the major lesson that the Torah wants to teach you, by the way. And it's the most important message you could ever hear. There's nothing you need to do to be lovable and worthy. So we know this. Logically, you are lovable and worthy, yes? Who feels intrinsically lovable and worthy? 1 out of 50. Most people don't feel lovable and worthy. They feel, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I'm not nice enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not doing what other people, comparing themselves to other people. Why is that? Because we've grown up needing this recognition, and if we don't get it, we just don't feel lovable and worthy. But we know now that there's nothing you need to do to be lovable and worthy. That is your natural state of being, you're lovable and worthy. How do you get what you know to be true? Logically, I know this to be true, but start feeling it. Lots of our sages say the biggest distance in the world is between your head and your heart. We spoke about in the last class. So many times you say to yourself, I really shouldn't do this, and then you do it. I really should do this, and you don't do it. There's a big gap between what we know to be true and what we feel to be true. So we know that we're intrinsically lovable and worthy, but we don't feel that. So how do you get what you know to be true into your heart? How do you start feeling that? This is a very, very, very important thing. Your heart is emotional. So logic doesn't work. I've just logically explained to you and basically proven to you that you are lovable and worthy, but your heart doesn't get the logic. Your heart's like, okay, but I don't feel it. So our sages teach us a very, very important tool. You have your head and you have your heart. What is between your head and your heart? Your mouth. How you speak to yourself is creating your sense of self. Now, usually how you're speaking to yourself is based on your parents and your teachers and things. You got that voice in your head, the critical, negative voice in your head from your upbringing. Your teacher when you were 6 was like, oh, you'll never be successful. And your parents came a bit late to collect you. And your girlfriend split up with you and said he's much bigger and she's much nicer, whatever it is. They were saying, so you've got this voice in your head, which isn't your natural voice in your head. It's been given to you by the negative feedback that you've got over your life. So you're saying to yourself, I'm not good enough. Now, once you keep saying to yourself, I'm not good enough, I don't deserve this, what's wrong with me? That becomes your reality. How you speak to yourself that becomes your reality, and that's how you start feeling about yourself. It's very, very simple. So in order to switch how you're feeling about yourself, you have to switch what you're saying to yourself. Switch what you're saying to yourself. Just start saying really nice, compassionate, sweet, loving, kind things to yourself. Speak to yourself how you'd want someone to speak to your children. If you had a friend who spoke to you like you speak to yourself, how long would you let them be your friend? Punch them after like 10 seconds, like, shut up! Why are you being so negative and critical the whole time? Leave me alone. But you're dealing with that voice in your head the whole time. And we're going to speak a lot in the next session about how to deal with the voice in your head. But for now, I'm just going to tell you, don't fight it. Don't fight it. Don't say, well, no, it's not true. Or don't say it's my fault, it's their fault. Don't fight that voice. It's a very strong voice. All you have to do is hear that voice and say, I'm not going to play that soundtrack anymore. Step back. You could go to therapy for many years and say, well, I've got this voice because of my mother when she was 6 and my boyfriend. You could do that for years. I'm not sure how helpful that is. By the way, it's helpful for some people. I'm not saying don't do that. But in general, just to be able to recognize that voice and say, I hear you, but I'm not engaging anymore. And then what we're going to start doing is say nice things to yourself. Your personal growth has to be compassionate and joyful. No pressure, no guilt, no fear. It doesn't work. It's not healthy. Your personal growth has to be a joyful, playful adventure of tapping into the opportunity. Everyone sit up straight, breathe through your nose. Say this. I am intrinsically lovable and worthy. I am naturally and essentially and unconditionally lovable and worthy. By the way, are you deluding yourself? Are you just saying some kind of affirmation to delude yourself? No, because we've already agreed that it's a true statement. It is true, you just don't feel it. So how are you going to bring it into your heart? Just keep saying nice things. Just walk around saying nice things to yourself. I am a radiant being of divine light. Now that will make you laugh a bit, but it's much better than walking around saying, I'm such. The soundtrack in your head is creating your reality. The soundtrack in your head is creating your experience of life. If you're going on a road trip, 4 hours upstate, and you've got lots of CDs in the car, you get the CD that you hate and you stick it in there. It's like, and you can't stand it, and you're cruising, that's going to ruin your journey. You're going to be like, oh God, no. Do you know what a sensible person does? They take it out and they put in Dave Matthews. You cruise it down, now you've got Dave Matthews playing, now you're chilling, that's great. I feel good now, life is great, beautiful sunset. You put some other soundtrack in that you hate, I'm not going to say any names, but then suddenly you're like, oh, life is terrible, it's so depressing, these words are depressing, the music is depressing. So you have a CD playing in your head saying not nice things to you, that's going to create your reality. It's not pleasant. Take out that CD gently. Don't fight it. Why I hate this CD. Who gave me this CD? But my mum gave me this CD. I don't care who gave you that CD. It's not working for you. Get rid of that CD. Put in this CD. I am a master. I can do this. I believe in myself. I'm lovable and worthy. I promise you, if you do this 10 times a day, just say this 10 times a day, your life will be so significantly better, so significantly different. And at first it will be hard and it will be not natural and you're forcing yourself, and I don't believe this. You only don't believe it because you've been saying the negative thing for so long. Start saying it, you start believing it, and it's good to start believing it because it's true. It's not deluding yourself. It's bringing your heart into what you know to be true. So make this a practice for yourself. Wake up in the morning, say lovely things to yourself, walk around. Every time the voice in your head says, you're not good enough, say, well, actually, I'm a radiant being of divine light. And it will be silly and funny. Once again, part of your growth has to be playful. Just be playful. Your negative mind patterns are like a bully. They want you to feel bad. They want you to feel sad. As soon as you just stand up to them and say, hey man, it's okay. Welcome, but I'm not getting involved. My daughter, when she was 4, she said to me, Abba, my Yetzer Hara, my negative mind, my critical mind, told me not to share my toys with Binyamin. That's her younger brother. But I didn't listen to it and I shared them anyway. That's great. I've been brainwashing her since you were born. And then, that's amazing. That's amazing. She identified that voice. She didn't identify with it and say I'm bad. She just said, I don't buy that. I just don't buy that. I'm not doing that voice. I'm going to do this voice. It's a much better voice. Choose your friends. Hang around with positive, uplifting people. Anyone who's going to be roasting you and putting you down, once again, we said you've got to try and love them back. But you don't need to be around that. But choose your friends in your head as well. So start saying nice things. So the key to self-love and self-worth is just to say nice things to yourself. Just be nice. And when you identify that critical negative voice, I heard a few different advices, by the way. One person said, if you hear that critical negative voice, just say it again in like a Donald Duck voice. Someone actually said you should say it in the most like romantic French accent. You are not good enough. Stage number 1, self-worth, self-love is free. How do you get that? Say nice things. Be nice to yourself. Now that doesn't mean you're not going to grow. It's not saying, right, so I'm perfect. I didn't say you're perfect. So you can still want to grow. One of the keys to growth, by the way, is to feel good about yourself. If you don't feel good about yourself, you can't grow. Where does self-esteem come from? I just feel good about who I am. Feel good about me. Where do we get that from? Many people, unfortunately, come up to me and they say to me, like, Rabbi, I hate myself. So I say to them, why? Why do you hate yourself? And they say, because I get annoyed with my mum when she pressures me to do this, and I'm jealous, and I'm lazy, and I don't get up in the morning, and I don't do what I'm meant to do. And they list a whole lot of things. So I listen to them and I say, you know what, I really hear that. But why do you hate yourself? And they say, what do you mean? I just told you, I've got all these bad character traits, I'm doing these bad things. And I say to them, well, if they have children, I say, your children, do they have bad character traits? And they're, yes. I go, do you hate them? And they're like, no. So I say, well, if you don't hate your children for their bad character traits, why do you hate yourself for your bad character traits? Your bad character traits don't define you. That's not who you are. Your bad character traits are things you can work on, things that you could grow, things you can develop. So how do we tap into self-esteem? I feel good about myself for who I am. I wish I brought my daughter here. So my daughter's very pretty, thank God, because my wife's very pretty, thank God, because God made them pretty. So my daughter's very pretty. Since the age of 1 or 2 years old, we have lots of guests that come to our house. Everyone who walks into our house sees my daughter, and they say to her, oh, you're so pretty. Wow, you're so pretty. Oh, she's so cute. Look at us, they're so cute. She's so pretty. Oh, you're so pretty. That's very dangerous. Because now you have this impressionable little girl growing up thinking, well, what's valuable about me? What makes me special is being pretty. I need to be pretty. It's all about being pretty. And she grows up and then she gets a sense of self based on her body and what people think of her, and she, God forbid, does things that she doesn't want to do, so people like her, and eating disorders and all terrible things come from that. So I sat her down when she was 3, 4, and I said to her, Tamara, you are very pretty, Baruch Hashem. You're very pretty, thank God, because God made you pretty. But what's more important than being pretty? So she thought about it and she looked at me and she said, being kind? And I was like, yeah, being kind is so much more important than being pretty. Being kind, having the right values, being loving and compassionate, that's so much more important than being pretty. So now my daughter's growing up with this value of being kind. So when she comes home from school, she doesn't show off about what clothes she's wearing. She says, Abba, one of the girls in my class today didn't have enough food, so I shared my food. And I say, wow, that's amazing. And she feels good about herself. She has self-esteem. Her self-esteem is based on her character traits, her good character traits, her good values, how much she helps other people, how much she's there for other people. So when people come to our house now and they see my daughter and they say to her, wow, you're so pretty, she says, thank you. And then we look at each other and we smile, because we know what's more important than being pretty. And I said to my daughter a few years ago, by the way, do you think that the richest people are the happiest people in the world? Do you think the prettiest people are the happiest people in the world? And she's like, no. And she knows that from however old she is. The prettiest people aren't the happiest people in the world. The richest people aren't the happiest people in the world. So why are those people's 2 top values? Why is money and looks and material stuff and physical pleasure, why are those people's top values? It's not even getting them what they want. Well, some people do get their self-esteem based on that, by the way. But they still don't feel that good about themselves. Because if you get your self-esteem based on your money and your looks, then there's always a competition. Well, he's better looking, he's got more money. Why are you chasing those values? They're not giving you what you want, they're not giving you happiness, and it means you never have a healthy sense of self-esteem. Self-esteem is based on focusing on your good character traits and your good values. Basic, very quick, how do you work on your character traits? Firstly, they don't define you. Don't say, this is who I am. I am a high anxiety person. Someone said that to me the other day. I'm a high anxiety person. I said, no, you're just having high anxiety thoughts and then feelings, but that's not who you are. You can actually change your thoughts and you change your feelings. We're going to do that in the next class. But that doesn't define you. But once you say, I am this, is very hard to change. Once you say, I have this is like a disease. I have the disease called impatience. No one identifies as their disease. This is who I am. I am COVID. That's who I am. No one said that. I have COVID and I'm going to heal myself. I'm going to improve myself. So you aren't your negative character traits. You have negative character traits, and therefore you can start working on them joyfully. One major way to work on your character traits, as I said, what is a character trait? Character trait is really a tendency, a way of being. So if you have one envious thought a month, do you have the trait of envy? You don't. But once you're thinking envious thoughts all the time and you're jealous of other people and you're putting yourself down, to the extent that you're thinking those negative things, you can be said to have that trait. That's what a trait is. And then how much you act on it, how much you shout at other people when you're angry, and that's what a trait is. So all you have to do is start modeling, what would a calm person do in this situation? What would the best me in this situation? And you've got to be aware of the situations that are going to trigger you. Whenever I see my boss, I feel like this. Whenever my team loses, I feel like this. Whenever the guys are saying that, you've got to be aware of when your not so good character traits are going to be triggered. Be aware, get ready, and just shift how you behave. But you've got to prepare for it. How you're going to think. How would a calm person think now? What would a righteous person think and say and do? And even if you're not feeling it, we're going to speak about dealing with your emotions in a healthy way. Never repress your emotions. We'll speak about that in the next class. But once you can start acting in that way, act like a generous person, then that starts changing you inside. And people say, fake it till you make it. I actually say it different. I say, fake it till you awake it. Because I think you're naturally healthy. I think you're naturally good. I think it's your natural state of being. I just think because of the abuse and the pain and the difficulty we have in life, we've developed these more negative things. But we are going to work on bringing out our true essence, which is loving and kind. Self-respect. The key to self-respect. What is the key to self-respect? I respect myself. Where do you get respect? Why do you respect people? You look up to people and you respect them. Why? Values. Now watch this. There is one key to self-respect. Do this and you can have self-respect. Always strive to do the right thing. Always do the right thing. In whatever situation, live up to your values. Set standards for yourself. Live up to your standards. Be that person. Then you can respect yourself. So you go out and everyone's drinking and they're chug, 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 chug. You say, you know what? I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do the right thing. You go back to the room. How do you feel about yourself? Right. Wow, I did the right. You want to look at yourself in the mirror at the end of the day and say to yourself, I did what I knew to be the right thing. I said the right thing. I acted in the right way. I spoke to myself in the right way. It's the key to self-respect. Always do the right thing. Now, sometimes you'll mess up. You can't always do the right thing. But if you have self-respect and self-esteem, you can admit your mistake. You can learn from your mistake. You can apologize for your mistake, and then you can move on and you can become very greater and have even more self-respect and self-esteem because I'm working on myself, becoming greater. Do what you know to be the right thing. Never do anything that you don't feel comfortable doing because you're worried what other people will think about you. Ask yourself what's the right thing. So people say to me, well, how do I know what the right thing is? 99% of the time, you know what the right thing is. How often do you say to yourself, I really shouldn't do this? And you do it as you're saying it. How can you have any self-respect if you're doing things you know you shouldn't do? How can you have any self-respect if you're not doing things you should do? By the way, don't beat yourself up now and say, oh God, this is a terrible class because I'm not doing anything and I'm not doing what I should do. Don't do that. Say, oh wow, that's an interesting, empowering idea. I'm going to write a list of things that I shouldn't do and I'm going to not do them or try to do them a bit less. And I'm going to write a list of things I should do and I'm going to try to do them. I should get up earlier, I should exercise more, I should call my mother more often. So start doing those things. By the way, once you start doing that, it's very empowering. Once you start doing something that gives you self-respect, you get so addicted to it that then you can do everything else. I'm going to live up to my values. That makes me respect myself. So we go onto the roof, we're in the holiest place in the world, and people come onto the roof and they're like, can we take a photo? And they're like, yeah, and they're all like, why? Why are you doing that? Like, what are you saying? What? I'm very intelligent. Well, no, I'm very kind. I'm very kind. Here. Why are you saying that? Why are you doing that? Because people are getting their sense of self based on, oh, you're stunning. And they're like, yeah. Terrible. Always chasing recognition on superficial values. We don't need those pouty photos. A nice smiley photo. Unless you got low self-esteem. No, low self-esteem. If you got low self-esteem, then you should just have pictures of nature. You know, the sunset ones and the mountains. Put that out there. But you want to project yourself. You want people to respect you, by the way. If you want people to respect you, respect yourself. Project yourself as I got good values. I got nice values. I'm a good person. I'm healthy. I'm kind. I'm sweet. I'm loving. Once again, final word. It's all up to you. This is what's so good. Your success and your meaning and your greatness and your self-respect and your self-esteem. It's all completely up to you. So you can do this. Everyone can live a great life because it's only up to you. It's up to you. If you want to and you put in the effort, you can live a great life. You can be successful. Everyone can do this. And the tools, the techniques aren't difficult. They're not difficult. Self-love and self-worth is speak nicely to yourself. Self-esteem is focus on your good character traits and work on your bad ones. Self-respect is live up to your values, always do the right thing. You can all do that. And you will live an amazing life if you do that. Does kind mean soft? Or does kind mean giving the input that they need in order to grow? That's what it means to be kind. So just being soft on yourself and your children, that isn't called being kind. That's called spoiling them. It's actually the opposite of kind. So you're right. Sometimes kindness is motivating them. You could be better, I said, but never putting them down. I'd never put my children down or myself down because that won't make me grow. I'll put myself up. I won't say, okay, I'm perfect, because I'm not. I'll say, I can feel better about myself by working on this character trait and working out and training and doing, but never being strong and disciplined with someone isn't putting them down. It doesn't work in general. My masters used to hit me with bamboo sticks and stuff. But I think that's called being kind. Because if you don't get hit with a bamboo stick and you want to be a good martial artist, you're going to get knocked out very easily. So you're right. Sometimes being kind is not being soft. Being kind is being motivating and disciplined and persevering, and you can do this. But how you inspire someone is saying, you can do this. Try harder. More push-ups. You can do this. Not, you're a loser. You're a nothing. Well, by the way, that does motivate some people. It does. But it's just unhealthy. It is unhealthy because even if they're motivated, then they'll become this strong martial artist, but they'll have anger. It will be an angry, aggressive type of greatness. I'm going to show you. I'll show you how great I am. Like so many perfectionists out there because their dad never said they're proud of them. Their dad never said, I'll show my dad. So I'm going to be the richest man in the world. Now they're missing their own children's birthday parties because they're showing their dad. It's like, that's a very big mistake. So negative reinforcement, although it may work, kind of, never creates a healthy human being. But strong, disciplined, positive reinforcement is kind and will create a great human being.